Yes, it's another big unhaul. Hey guys, it's Abby and I have had to go through my books again. Prior to me going through all of these, I had over 1,000 books. There's probably going to be more unhauls, so there will be more of these coming, and I recently did a 50+ book unhaul. And I'm doing another one, and this one is 40+ books, so it's a lot. Let's get straight into it. First up, and why I need to film this now rather than later, is The Great Gatsby, the Diglot edition. Learn German with. So this is a book which is just The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, and it actually has German words interspersed throughout, and it is to try and get you to naturally pick up the language as you're reading through. This was my first time reading The Great Gatsby. I enjoyed it and I did like this, and I will probably buy more from them in the future, but I won't read this again. I didn't love The Great Gatsby, so I'm not going to dive into this again, and there is a friend of my mum's who would enjoy being able to read this, so I'm going to gift this onto him and he can do with it as he wills. Now on to less time constrained books, but still, may as well get them gone before we accidentally pack them up and move them. These are all mixed up at the moment between read and unread, so let's try and do the read books first. Dear Amy by Helen Callahan. This is a thriller book that I read a couple of months ago. I did enjoy it, I gave it 3 or 4 stars, but I just won't pick it up again. Miss Peregrines Home for Peculiar Children and Hollow City by Ransom Riggs. These are books 2 and 3 in the Peculiar... oh, it's just Mr. Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children series. I really like the series. I've only read books 1, 2 and 3 and I really liked them. I don't intend to carry on and I don't need to own them. I actually read these on ebook, so I don't require to own these. I got them secondhand. Someone else can pick them up and have them in their collection. The Red Pyramid by Riordan. This is the first book in the Kane Chronicles. I enjoyed this and I'm going to continue reading the rest of the trilogy. I'm actually reading the second book close to when I'm filming, God knows for when this is uploaded, but I'm going to keep reading it. I enjoyed it, but I just don't think I will go back to it. I'm enjoying them, I'm glad I'm reading them, but I won't reread them. So I'm going to pass this on to my old school that my mum works at, and the kids there I'm sure will enjoy. Stardust by Neil Gaiman. I really loved this. I actually had watched the film before I read this one, surprisingly for me, and I really did like this. Unlike quite a lot of people that I've heard from who have read this and didn't like it as much as they liked the film, I did really like this, and I think it helped that I did see the movie first, but I'm not going to pick it up again. I haven't touched this since the first time I read it in 2019, and whilst that is partly because I have so many books on my shelves, I think that if I did want to re-experience this, I would just want to do it in bits, and so I would just watch clips from the film, which is very well done. Traitor to the Throne by Alvin Hamilton. This is the second book, I believe, in the Rebel of the Sands trilogy, which I read on ebook. I adored them. I wanted to have physical versions of them, like, look at this cover, it's gorgeous. However, I've not touched this since I picked it up. I don't have the other 2 books. I can always purchase it again at a later date once I'm settled into my own home with my own shelves to fill, but right now this is one that can go. Touch by Claire North. Yes, a Claire North book is going. I gave this 4 stars. I did really enjoy it, but it wasn't my favourite, and at the time when I read it I said that I think I should reread it again. I have no desire to do that anymore. I can always pick it up again if I want to. This is a pretty damaged second-hand copy, so if I'm that desperate to do so, I can pick it up again in the future. Wit, Wisdom and Timey-Wimey Stuff, the quotable Doctor Who by Cavan Scott and Mark Wright. So this is literally just quotes from the Doctor Who TV show. I was gifted this by some girls that I lived with in my second year of uni. I no longer speak to them anymore, and also I had been making a bit of a collection of Doctor Who books, but I'm not going to make them anymore. I'm not going to collect them. Sorry if there's a change in camera angle, I have to go help with dinner. So, I had started talking about this one and mentioned that it was gifted to me by some girls that I lived with in second year, and I don't speak to them anymore. It is just a collection of quotes from the TV show, and I had been collecting quite a mass of Doctor Who books, and it was accidental. I hadn't bought most of them myself. Most of them were actually gifted to me by people because I love the show. and so I was keeping them because I was like, oh well, I have a Doctor Who collection, I need to keep them. This one can go. Flip by Martin Bedford. This one I still remember picking up in W.H. Smith's. I know exactly what aisle I was in the Metro Centre where it used to be, and I noticed this because it is confusing. Which way is up? And it's a really fun book. Which way is up? That way. It's a really fun book where we follow a young boy. I think his name is Flip. Someone. Oh, okay, so we follow Alex, who ends up swapping bodies with a boy called Philip or Flip, and they are in each other's bodies, and it's kind of like what's happening through them both being within each other's minds and bodies, and how will they be able to switch. And the tagline is a riveting psychological thriller by a new voice in children's books. I've not heard it about anything else from Martin Bedford, but I will say that the cover design in this is great. Again, this is another one that I really enjoyed, but I won't read it again. Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. I read this recently and I loved it. Like, I really, really loved it. But what I want to do is buy those new gorgeous editions, the full set of them, rather than just having this one book. I got the second hand, I can send it back to being second hand, and someone else can read this and love it. I'm gonna let this go, and then when I do have the space, I know exactly what covers I'm buying. Socrates' Defence by Plato. This was an interesting read. I remember reading it on a train ride from Preston to Carlisle, and it was only £1. It was interesting. I got it to bump up the delivery price on an Amazon parcel that I was getting myself, and I won't reread it again. This was the primary reason for me kind of thinking about the books I was getting rid of. I was keeping this just to have something by Plato on my shelves. Get rid of it. Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. I liked this book, I enjoyed it, and I would like to read more in the series at some point, but I didn't love it. It's not a brand new favourite for me. I am kind of loath to let this go because it's second hand, but it's in such good condition. However, I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let it go to a brand new home. If I do want to read the other books, I can get them by ebook if I really, really want to, or if I really want to I can buy them, but I'm not so attached to them that I wish to. I need to be realistic about the books I'm picking up, and whilst I loved Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom, this one was good. I liked it. It's okay. It can go. Letters to the Midwife, correspondence with Jennifer Worth. These are just letters to and from Jennifer Worth, who is the author of the memoir called The Midwife, and also Shadows of the Workhouse, Farewell to the East End and In the Midst of Life. I enjoyed this a lot less than the other 4 books because it is literally just letters between her and other people, but I felt like I needed to keep it in order to keep the set that used to live here was all of my Call the Midwife books, which I adore. I am going to let this one go. And Ember in the Ashes and A Torch Against the Night by Sabaa Tahir. These are the first 2 books in the Ember in the Ashes quadrilogy 4-book series. And I really did like these. I gave them both 4 stars. However, they don't match, so if I do ever have a series, I would like a matching series, so I could just buy a set at some point if I want to. I can read them as ebooks for now, and if I do ever find myself struggling to find a copy, I'm sure I can go and temporarily steal one of Caitlin's because it's her favourite series. So yes, this is my favourite kind of addition for the set of them, but I don't know yet if I want a full set on my shelves. I did like it. This is the theme of this unhaul, is that I actually really liked these books. It's just that I need to be realistic about what stays on my shelves now. I was really privileged before in that I was able to keep everything, even if it was to a limited point, but now I need to be more realistic. Okay, so then I'm going to be also getting rid of Macbeth and The Comedy of Errors, both by William Shakespeare. These are 2 plays of his that I liked. I had these and I had Othello in this edition, and I got rid of Othello because I don't like it. I am never going to go back and reread these, so these can also go off to a better home. And then for the penultimate section of the red books, it is a load of Agatha Christie books. So I'm actually keeping 2 that are going to be on my shelves. One is Death in the Clouds, because that was featured in a Doctor Who episode, and another one is the collection of Miss Marple short stories, because I've got a Folio Society edition of it. These editions, these ones are gorgeous, they're so beautiful, but with a mystery, once you've read it once, that's kind of it. And I've not went to go pick back any of Agatha Christie's books, any of them back up, so I'm going to let these go on to new homes. So for the older style books, they include The Mysterious Affair at Styles and The 13 Problems. And then for the newer style books, I have The Big Four, The ABC Murders, Peril at End House, The Hollow, Poirot Investigates, and The Mystery of the Blue Train. And those are all going. And then I will do my last thing in the read category and all of the unread books after I've had dinner. I've eaten. So let's get straight back into it. So this is the last of my read books, and I'm doing this because I haven't read everything in here. I have read Pride and Prejudice, I've read Persuasion, and I've read Lady Susan. I haven't read Sense and Sensibility, Mansfield Park, Emma, or Northanger Abbey. However, Caitlin has told me to get rid of this. So I think I know why. Can't guarantee, but I think I know why. So this is going to be given away. And then onto a related note, but I've definitely not read it, and that is Sense and Sensibility by Jane. Here was me thinking this was Sense and Sensibility. It's not. I was about to say, where's Pride and Prejudice? This is Pride and Prejudice. I've read this. I really liked it. I gave this 4 or 5 stars. It was so enjoyable, so sweet. I'm very glad I picked it up. And then Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. So these, Caitlin told me to get rid of. And my birthday is in October. So I think you can guess what's happening. I think I can guess what's happening. But they're wrong. Okay, now on to my definitely unread books. So let's go with these ones, Balancing Precariously. First up we have Wormwood by G.P. Taylor. This is a fantasy book that I've not heard too much about, a historical fantasy. And this is actually one of the few books that I have owned since childhood that I've not read and have no intention of reading. There's a few, I think 3 left, that I intend to read. There's a story behind them. But this one, it never called for me, and I don't know why. Because it's a beautiful cover, absolutely gorgeous. But it never called for me, and I've heard that this has quite Christian leanings. Now I myself am an atheist, however my old school is C of E, so they should very much like this, especially because my mum got me this when I was pretty young, so this should be fine for us to pop in their school library. So it'll have nice religious themes for them to go along with their schooling, and then also hopefully an enjoyable fantasy book. I've heard that it's very heavy on the religious aspects, and I think that would make me not enjoy the book as much as I could do if it hadn't lent so heavily into those, and I don't want to end up reading this and giving it a negative review with my heavy non-religious bias. So I think this is best left to kids in the right age range and in the right category in a C of E school. C of E is Church of England. Then we have Kidnapped by Robert Louis Stevenson. The only reason I ended up picking this book up is because it's in the same editions as the Classics for Girls I got when I was a kid. So this must have been in the Classics for Boys section, and I was like, oh, I should definitely add to that. But I don't think I particularly care. And I've also heard that this has quite of a dull and protracted writing style. So this is one that I'm just not going to pick up. I've owned it for years and it's only small and I've never picked it up, so I think it's time that it goes. The Queen of the Tailing by Erica Johansen. I got this second hand, and I remember being so excited seeing this in a charity shop in Carlisle when I was still at my undergraduate university and I was visiting. We live in Newcastle, me and my parents, and Carlisle is between Preston, Newcastle and southwest Scotland where my family are from. So we met up and I remember finding this and I was so excited and I grabbed it. I still remember British Art Foundation, I know exactly where it was in the shop, and there's a lovely map. However, I haven't heard very good things about this book, and I just don't think I'm going to waste is a strong word, but waste my time on a potentially book when I have so many potential 5-star reads on my shelves. Then sticking with some big fantasy series on the Bookternet, we have Heir of Fire by Sarah J Maas. This is the third book in the Throne of Glass series. I read the first two, they were fine. I think I gave them 4 stars, they were enjoyable. I did want to know more. I had started this one, I got a few pages into it. I don't know where exactly, probably about 50 pages. But I can't bring myself to read any more of this. I've been like not wanting to pick it up because it's so big, and although it's fine, the story is fine, it's interesting, it's not what I gravitate towards, and I would like to focus more of that on my reading now. So this is going to be going, but that's this series done for me. Hunger by Michael Grant. I read Gone earlier this year and wasn't really keen on it, and at the time I thought, okay, I'll still give book 2 a chance, but I just don't care. The main reason I was going to keep giving it a chance is because Olivia Savannah from Olivia's Catastrophe really liked this series when she was younger. It's one of her childhood favourites and I wanted to keep giving it a go. However, I think it is, okay, it doesn't go with Twilight, it's not the same as Twilight, but in terms of if I read Twilight now, after having never read it before, I would hate it. But I loved those books as a teenager. I think this falls into the same category. I think this is the sort of book that if I had read it when it came out and when I was in the right age bracket, this came out in 2009. If I'd read it at the time, I probably would have loved it and I probably would have been in the same group of nostalgic love for a childhood favourite, but reading it now doesn't quite work, unfortunately. So this one is going to be departing. Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. I read Dark Days and hated it. I struggled my way through it, I wished I had DNF'd it, and I need to be strict with what I keep on my TBR. Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This is a well-known series on the internet, a duology, or is it a trilogy? It's a trilogy, and I got the second hand. It's got some gorgeous yellow sprayed edges which don't quite match the rest of the book in my opinion. It's odd, but they're pretty. But I went through this with Caitlin, like looking at reviews online, and this really does not seem to be my sort of thing. I'm leaning away from YA as it is, so we're letting this one go. Then for this chunky one, and that is the Encyclopedia of Doctor Who. This was published, why did I decide to look at when this was published? 2011. So it's not even up to date anymore, which is the risk that you take in buying an encyclopedia for an ongoing series. Now it is very interesting, it has a lot of different bits in it. It is just an encyclopedia, alphabetical, pictures. I thought I saw something there. And yeah, petrichor. So yeah, like this is something that would be a nice coffee table book. However, I don't have a coffee table. I already have other coffee table books. My partner isn't into Doctor Who, so it can't really sit on the coffee table. It needs to be something that we both like. There's just no point in me retaining this, really. So despite the gorgeous spines here with the alphabetised lettering going down the side, and the fact that it's Doctor Who, this was something that sat on my TBR for ages because it's going to take a very long time for me to go through this page by page, and that's the only time I would consider it read, which I know is stupid, but leave me alone. And also, as I mentioned before, that Doctor Who collection is going to be dismantled and I'm only going to keep books that I actually want to keep. There will still be Doctor Who books that are staying on my shelves, but this won't be one of them. And then for what you've probably been waiting for a while is the fact that I'm going to be getting rid of City of Fallen Angels, City of Heavenly Fire, City of Lost Souls, Clockwork Princess and Clockwork Prince. I'm aware they were all out of order. There are technically 4 books missing from this. If you did see my previous unhaul, you know that I unhauled books 1, 2 and 3. 4, 5 and 6 are going now. This is 1 and 2. No it's not, it's 2 and 3. I haven't read 1, it's actually on my TBR for this month as I'm filming, so I'm actually filming this in August. Please God have this up before the end of 2021. But yes, so book 1 is on my TBR, but I don't think I'm going to like it. It's kind of like a last chance saloon for these books for me. and I don't think it's going to go well. So I'm just preemptively getting rid of them. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll have to buy them on ebook or get them again or something. Or maybe I'll read it before these actually are fully removed from my shelves, because they'll sit in the garage for a while until we can actually get them donated. It takes longer now with everything at the moment. But yes, this is not going to be staying on my TBR anymore. It's one of those series, again, like Twilight, if I'd read it at the time, if I'd read it at the age intended, at the time when it was published, I think I would have loved it, and I think this would have been like a favourite series. I would continue to read all of Cassandra Clare's works, everything that's published. She's still publishing books now that are really, really popular and really, really hyped, and they're meant to be better than the old ones, but I don't care enough to read the old ones to get to the new ones, so I'm just giving up on the Shadowhunter series. If she ends up picking up, writing and releasing something in the future that isn't Shadowhunters, and if it piques my interest, I'll give it a go, but it's not on my radar at the moment. They're just gone. So that is 42 books that I'm unhauling. In my last unhaul, I unhauled over 50. I can't remember how many. So I'm getting close to 100. I may have hit it, but I don't think so. But I'm getting close to 100 books unhauled, and I'm going to be going through more. As I'm filming this, it is a Tuesday. On Friday or Saturday, I will be going through the books that I have in the garage. So there will be more that will be unhauled because I can't keep them. I can't keep them all. I just can't. So they need to go. I was able to go through these because I had an unexpected day off of work, and so I gave Caitlin a ring and we went through my shelves. As you can see, these bad boys are pretty empty right now. We packed away all of the books that usually sit on my standard shelves. I'm just sat on the floor rather than stood up. Usually I'm a bit higher up, but we packed away all of these, and then I took the books that were under my bed and put them on here, just so that they were out, ready to be packed, and I realised that there were too many. So I went through those and narrowed those down here. Those are the ones you've seen here that I've read. And then I also went through the red shelves again, because the unread, can't speak, through the TBR shelves again, just to try and narrow that down a bit more. Caitlin was amazing. She was fantastic at both getting me to keep and getting me to get rid of books. And we actually ended up going through some of the Goodreads reviews specifically for certain books to kind of check them out and see what would work for me. And when we did that, we actually discovered that I am a character-based reader, which I never knew. So I always assumed I was plot-based but didn't know. I'm definitely character-based. I need a good plot, don't get me wrong. I can't have no plot. Or if I do, I need to be interested in the no plot, like in the development of people. But I am character-based, which was an influencing factor in some of these. For example, Gone Girl. I specifically didn't like the character development in Dark Places. I thought it was lacking massively, and that was my main reason for being bored. So yeah, that was very interesting to find out, and a lot of fun to go through. It was actually a very nice day just sitting and going through my books and seeing what I can get rid of. As I mentioned, there are going to be more unhauls, maybe just one, maybe more coming soon, just to try and see what I can get off of my shelves before we do actually move, so that we're not paying £7 million for the removal costs of my 1,000 odd books. So I will have to go through my other books again at a later point, but for now I think 42 is pretty good for a second unhaul in the second half of 2021. That's almost 100. Let me know down below if you've read any of these books and what you think of them. I don't know if they'll be gone or not by the time that you comment, depends on charity shops and all of that, but I won't be reclaiming any of them back, so just bear that in mind. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and as always, Caitlin will be linked in the description box down below for being the most fantastic help a girl could ask for. She has been running in the month of August Mary Shelley-a-thon. Depending on whether this goes up in August or not, depends on if that's relevant to you, but she has. She also has self-published a book called Samuel Noack, which is all set in the time period of the Great War and follows a young man's life from his childhood up until his adulthood, and really looking at that in depth. It's done beautifully, and she actually has an audiobook out of that that's just been released on, I think it's on Audible, so If you want to learn more about that, go and check out her latest video. It'll be mentioned near the end. If you've enjoyed my content and you want to know what books I'm actually going to keep and read, then please do hit the subscribe button down below and the like button if you've enjoyed the video, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye! How are there still books to unhaul? I mean, it helps. It helps that Mademoiselle is going to be purchasing me these in a nicer edition. What are you doing? I don't know if it's a bind-up. I don't know if it's editions and a set. I have no clue, but she's buying me them. And I'm excited.